Hey, FCF, we're continuing our journey where we're looking at a lot of portions of Scripture that just kind of exhort us to take some action. So God's developmental process, it often involves us learning what He says is normative for the way He Himself lives and the way life was meant to be, and then urging us to take on these characteristics, to start putting them into practice, to start to develop them. And so He incentivizes us, He motivates us by His character, by His love, and then he kind of vision casts for us. He says, you can do this because this is the way I am, and you're meant to carry my image. So as we look through these, just remember that even though these may be things that we are not yet doing, or that may at first seem very awkward or foreign, or may take time to develop, that doesn't mean that they won't develop. God promises that the capacities for these attributes, they're already in us. Now He wants us to enter into this cooperative developmental process with Him. All right, today we'll look, starting out, the book of Hebrews, chapter 5, verse 13. It says, anyone who lives on milk, that's talking about spiritual milk, being still an infant, again, meaning a newborn follower of Christ. Anyone who lives on milk, being an infant, is not acquainted with the teaching about righteousness. But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves. Notice I'm kind of breaking this down. Constant use have trained themselves to distinguish or discern good from evil. So I'll read it kind of one more time, kind of fluidly. It says, anyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is not acquainted with the teaching about righteousness. Not acquainted, meaning not experienced in it. But solid food, verse 14, is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. Give you a kind of a common experience. When we first become followers of Christ, we all are sort of a blank slate. Some of us may have had a background where we have a little bit of biblical understanding, a little bit of a picture of who God is, how He functions, the kind of life that He designed us to live. But most of us, we're a blank slate. And when we start our Christian life, we sort of are just recipients of information drops, okay? So it's a common thing to hear people say, well, the church I go to, they teach, and then whatever it is they say after that. They may say, they teach Jesus is going to come back after the tribulation, or before the tribulation, or in the middle of the tribulation, whatever it is. But at the starting stages of our Christian life, we're just kind of recipients of information drops. And sometimes it's large information drops. Now, the funny thing about this is that some people go all through their development with that same process. In other words, they go to their church, they receive information, they read Christian books, they receive information, they go to Bible college, seminary, whatever, and again, they're just they're recipients of information drops. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Having the information, the biblical information, is good, but it won't translate into actual character transformation until there's an in-between process. And so the information that we have needs to be prayerfully and meditatively processed in the presence of God. We have to be seeking Him, His mind, His will, His ways. We have to be willing to question and to wait and to allow the Spirit of God to illuminate our imagination on things. In other words, we have to get in the habit of not just asking, what does the Bible say, but why? It's not just what does God say, but why does He say it? And then learning how to discern His voice as we ask naive questions, and we sit and we wait and we give time. And sometimes these questions, in my own experience, they've taken me on journeys that last years. Now, usually it's not that way, but it can. So it says the mature by constant use. Now, this is the difference. The mature, so the immature, the babe, they just say, well, this is what my church teaches, this is what my Bible college teaches, this is what my seminary teaches. And they can reiterate it, they can parrot it, and it can sound impressive. But in many cases, they have not experienced it or processed it spiritually. So when it comes to actual spiritual maturity, knowing right from wrong, being able to see into circumstances and discern, is this a good thing? Is this a potentially evil thing? they lack the development of conscience, and they lack the development of God-enlightened reasoning faculties that are necessary to discern. They have those faculties, but they have not used them. They've used mostly their mind and memory. So they're downloading information, and parroting it back. This is what my church teaches, so forth. Whereas they haven't taken that step of processing it so that they themselves can see the why behind the what, and they know good from evil. They know by the constant use, it says, of their senses. Senses being your God-enlightened reasoning faculties and your conscience. Those need to grow stronger and stronger, and they only grow stronger and stronger by use. You have to spend that time in God's presence. You have to ponder the issue personally with Him. You have to think it through, converse with other more mature believers, and let them stimulate your conscience and your God-enlightened reasoning faculties. But it's a real developmental process, and the characteristic that Hebrews 5:13 is pointing out is that maturity, 5:13 and 14, is a result of having constant use. We're constantly using both our conscience and our God-enlightened reasoning faculties to distinguish good from evil in real situations. So start taking that time to ask God the what behind the why. So His Word may say do something or don't do something, that's fine. But then say, Lord, help me to see what's behind this. Help me to see the greater value of good, why this is so important, or the greater danger of the evil that I may not be seeing. Process it in His presence, and then get in that habit of allowing your powers of discernment to be exercised on a daily basis. All right, we'll close there for today.